This is Justin Ruger from Accessible Beekeeping, and this is part one of how did Accessible Beekeeping come to be. The first few vlogs, I keep messing that up, will not be in the apiary or about beekeeping. They will actually be about myself and what I have gone through to make accessible beekeeping be what it is today and continue to grow it and why I put the effort into it. I hope you have the time to kind of learn about my history. My health journey started in 8th grade when I was diagnosed incorrectly with cancer and in the liver. And we spent 3 months thinking that all I had was 3 months. And I ended up having to get my primary care physician to call the oncologist. The oncologist ended up telling us that my paperwork had been switched around with another child who didn't know that he had liver cancer. So I've spent a lot of my life thinking about what happened to that child and if he was getting the treatment he needed and how long did it take them to figure out that they had mixed that paperwork up. So that was 8th grade. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I was pretty healthy until about 11th grade when I fractured my foot during wrestling. Went to the doctors and the doctor said, "There's nothing wrong with your foot. We can't find anything wrong." So of course, I continued wrestling. I continued playing football until my senior year, football season of my senior year, which was incidentally the only season that I went out for football. I played soccer and I did wrestling and even did track. But my senior year, playing football for Heritage High School, went out for the team. Mid-drill, my foot collapses and I'm in miserable pain. And they ended up finding out that my talar navicular bone had a fracture in it that they had to do surgery on eventually. Well, this surgery wouldn't happen and nobody would touch my foot until I was able to withstand the pain of somebody touching me just on the foot, just touching the skin. And it was so sensitive and so painful that even in my sleep, if somebody touched my foot, I was unable to, I would whelp and I would jolt and I would cry sometimes. So they sent me to a pain clinic. Well, this was before all of the strict requirements for pain pills that we have nowadays, and they had me on a cocktail of medicine to try to control this, and unfortunately we were unable to control it, and they ended up having to. I was in high school with my guidance counselor, Mr. Benz, and I went into his office and I'm like, "I'm not feeling well." And I was white in the face, whiter than I already am. My memory was shoddy, and I just didn't know who I was, where I was, what I was supposed to be doing. And they rushed me to the ER, and they put me in this rubber hard drug room like I was doing hard drugs and a danger to myself. And I had a fentanyl patch on my body. And the doctor came in after doing all the blood work, and he's like, "Well, we thought that your son," talking to my mother, "we thought that your son was doing hard drugs, and that's why we put him where we put him." And she's like, "But there are no," the doctor was like, "There are no drugs in his system." And my mother's like, "That's bullshit, because there should be drugs in his system. He's got a fentanyl patch on him right now." So they pulled the fentanyl patch off, they tested the fentanyl patch, made sure that it was a viable patch and actually had fentanyl in it, and the tests all came back positive for fentanyl, so they couldn't understand why my body was reacting to all these pain meds, this cocktail of pain meds that I was on. So I ended up spending about a week in the pediatric unit, and at the end of the week, once the stuff got out of my system, the diagnosis was that my fat was storing medication and I wasn't processing the medication correctly. And it all released into my system at once as I was playing sports and losing weight. So that's so finally after that, and I get out, they do an epidural, and I'm able to have my first of 7 foot surgeries. And each foot surgery was a little bit worse than the last one with the amount of hardware that they had to put in. And eventually, now I have not had a foot surgery since 2011, I believe. So this is 2023. So my foot, while it swells and it's painful, and they always say that they might eventually have to go in to do another surgery, they have yet to have to do that, which I am grateful for. Um, but yeah, that led to my college where I had my second issue with memory loss when I was playing rugby, and I was part of a hazing incident where I was hit in the head multiple times with a frying pan, and the frying pan actually caused memory loss and first traumatic brain injury. And had it not been for the amazing professors and the computer science, computer engineering, and physics department, all the at Christopher Newport University, I would not have gotten the knowledge and skills that I have today. So I'm very grateful for the fact that I was given the opportunity and the patience and the understanding and the time to complete my work, complete my assignments, do the projects in the PCSE department, and eventually meet Dr. Gore, who was a godsend, and he helped me get through my master's, where I worked at Thomas Jefferson National Laboratory, writing software for their Silicon Vertex tracker. So I successfully defended my master's. So now I have a bachelor's in computer engineering, a bachelor's in computer science, and a master's in applied physics. And this takes me on to the next step of my journey, which you can watch next week on the second part of this vlog. Thank you. Goodbye.